Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 3 on Draftkings, and I'm going to talk to you about some top stacks, my favorite stacks. I'm going to go through 5 of them, okay? I'm going to go through 5 stacks here, talk about who we're going to position ourselves to play with, how many of them we're going to position to play with, and we're going to talk about bring back stacks. We're going to play somebody on the opposing team to try and capture as much of the upside as we possibly can if the stack that we're playing goes completely bonkers. That is the way that you climb up to the top of the tournament list. That's how you find yourself in the top 1% of a tournament, to give you a chance at coming in all the way at the top where the big money sits. We're going to talk about those strategies. We are also going to be using that because it was asked last week, well, how do I build this into a lineup builder? Can you talk about how you incorporate this into a lineup builder? So I'm going to showcase the Rotogrinders lineup HQ. If you look right down below, there is a link, rotogrinders.com/smizzlife. It's in the description. I'm going to put it in a pinned comment. You cannot miss it. And we're going to do something else. We're going to do a giveaway on my Instagram for a Rotogrinders t-shirt. So if you head over to my Instagram, there will be a link again down below in the description. Click show more, or down below in the pinned comment for you to go follow me on Instagram. Must follow to win. There will be a trivia question posted there, and of all the right answers, I will let a random number generator give me a number, and I will pick a random winner for a Rotogrinders t-shirt. So be sure to head over to Rotogrinders, check them out. Be sure to head over to my Instagram, follow it, take part. Free t-shirt, can't miss it. You know, free stuff is always good, right? Hopefully you guys enjoy the show. Let's get to the top stacks. I'm going to start right up here at the top. I said this on the 06010 podcast that I taped this morning with Daniel Dopp and Mike Clay, that the Dallas Cowboys are they're a fantasy carnival, and I want tickets every single week. And I'm going to take both sides of this. This is a game to stack up just like last week with Atlanta and Dallas, just like week 1 with Dallas's game, and week 3 again, the highest totaled game on the slate. 55 expected points from this game. Very good possibility that it goes over with as fast as these teams play. Dallas runs more plays than any other team in the league. They're the number 1 pace team in the league. And Seattle doesn't exactly play slow, but they're going to be playing up in pace this week against Dallas. So you would expect them to get more plays than their usual when you're playing a team that plays really fast. Also playing at home, Russ Wilson, a fantastic quarterback who's been outstanding so far. So we've got to talk about what groups we want to build around Russ Wilson and our bring back stacks. So I'll give you a couple tips on how to do that. First thing that we've got to do is identify this game right here on DraftKings. As soon as I can find it. I'm stalling if you can't tell. We're going to stack him first with his players. Obviously, we've got in the flex, we have Carson, Metcalf, Lockett, Carlos Hyde, Greg Olsen, Homer, Dallas, whatever. I kind of want to focus on 2 guys in this stack. If you want to open it up wider than that and include somebody like Greg Olsen in your stacks, that's fine, but I just don't see enough volume that I need to stack Greg Olsen. But you can, but I don't know that it's necessary. I also don't think I'm going to be including Chris Carson in a group that I stack with Russ Wilson. Now, if the optimizer happens to put him into the lineup, I'm not going to exclude it. Clearly, he has a role in the passing game, but week 2 totals where he got 3 targets are more likely to be the norm than the outlier 6 targets that he got in week 1, and 3 touchdown receptions through 2 weeks is completely awkward. I would rather use Chris Carson as a leverage play in opposing lineups or bring back stacks with Dak than stacking him with Russ Wilson, and I will possibly build a group that excludes Chris Carson from any lineup that has Russ Wilson. I just haven't decided yet. It's Thursday. Give me a little bit of a break. So Russ Wilson, to me, very simple stack here. Apparently not simple for me to put in. I'm going to stick to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and I'll show you how to build this in just a second. DK Metcalf is absolutely outstanding. I've talked about him on pretty much every video. You guys know how I feel about him as a player. Tyler Lockett is an extremely efficient wide receiver who gets a great amount of volume pretty much every single week, and the presence of Metcalf helps Tyler Lockett. There's this prevailing thought among I'd say the majority of players of fantasy football that, well, if you like Lockett, you can't, or if you like Metcalf, you can't like Lockett. I view this similarly, but with different players and bodies and everything else, to Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Their skill sets complement one another. And they do so in an offense that is high volume with passing and is extremely efficient. That combination of things, the skills that DK Metcalf brings, leaves Tyler Lockett open. The routes that Tyler Lockett runs leaves DK Metcalf in one-on-one coverage, sometimes on the outside, which he can exploit, especially considering how well he exploited it last week in a game against New England with arguably the best cornerback in the league in Stephon Gilmore, and he kind of toasted him on a deep touchdown last week as well. So if he can't cover him, I don't know who can. Let's head over to the Rotogrinders lineup builder. If you haven't been here, here's a player pool. You get included with this lineup builder. You get my best buys. You can just click on this, and it shows you my top plays for the week. Everybody that's in my article above the fold. So I include a bunch of players in an article on ESPN Plus every single week. My best buys article. If you don't know where it is, just Google best buys week 3 and you'll find it. Everybody that's above also interested in is included here in the lineup HQ every single week. So we're going to go to our groups, and Rotogrinders, when you go to team player groups right here, the second button, it does a good job of building all the groups for you. You just have to activate each individual group that you want to use. Each quarterback that you want to stack, you just click on that player. Like we've got Murray here. You can either turn it off or you turn it on. You just toggle enabled or not enabled. You can toggle all of them on or off if you want. We'll look at Ryan here for a second. What I mean by they make it easy is they just kind of put every player on that quarterback's team in the lineup builder, and you just go through and you X them out. You don't have to type in names. It's very clicky as opposed to other lineup builders where you have to manually add a bunch of players. They're all here, and you just go, no, 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 yes, no, no, yes, no, sure, no, yes. And there's your whole group. So it's very fast to build groups. So I've already pre-built these for the sake of this video to try and keep it quicker and the pace moving along. So I've got this group built. As I said, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Sure, let's just put them as one guy because they're going to be in the group. Chris Carson, I'm going to exclude from this group. But if the lineup builder puts him into the lineup that have Russ Wilson in this stack, I will look at him. I may build a separate group that excludes, and you can do that right here. Use group in only lineups that do not contain Russ Wilson. Use groups in only lineups that do contain Russ Wilson, and Russ Wilson as the conditional player. That's making him the key player in this group. You can include David Moore. You can include Olsen. I'm not. I'm going to build this group. I'm going to use at least one, but up to 2 of Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. There it is. Group built. I'm going to go to the player groups where I've built my bring back groups for this. Russ Wilson in a bring back group. I've got all these different players on Dallas. I'm going to have it between 1 and 2 of them. Amari Cooper, Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott, and Dalton Schultz. You'll notice that Ezekiel Elliott is in this lineup. I may exclude him like I will with Chris Carson from lineups that have Dak Prescott, won't have Ezekiel Elliott in them. Both can clearly have good games. We saw Dak have a monster game, and Zeke still had a good game last week with 23 or 24 Draftkings points in week 2. But I did some research. Well, I didn't do the research. I asked Kyle to do some research, and Kyle did the research for me. And we talked about leverage plays was kind of my focus here. So I wanted to know how many times in the last 5 years has a quarterback, his running back, and let's say one of the wide receivers or a pass catcher, tight end or wide receiver from that team, has scored 25 or more DraftKings points. The answer is 25 times. That's happened in the last 5 years. Sounds like a lot until you realize that there's been about 2,600 games played in that time span. So it's not something that happens very often. And the people that it happened with, pretty predictable. The Saints, Breeze, Kamara, Thomas. It happened with the Titans a few years ago. It happened a lot with the Steelers when they had Antonio Brown, Lev Bell, Ben Roethlisberger. So somewhat predictable, but I would rather use the running backs as leverage plays against a stack than play with a stack. And in most cases, I will exclude them from lineups that have their quarterback unless they are heavily involved in the passing game. Guys like Miles Sanders, Christian McCaffrey was somebody that I would not exclude from a quarterback stack. Le'Veon Bell in his prime, David Johnson in his prime. So I prefer to use the running backs as a leverage play against a highly rostered wide receiver or a highly rostered stack. So in my Dak Prescott stacks, but I will include them in bring back stacks with the opposing quarterback. Our stacks here are going to be guys like Amari Cooper. If you don't like Amari Cooper on the road and that makes you turn up your nose a little bit, fine. He did have 14 targets and 10 catches in week 1 on the road against the Rams. Road games might mean something different this year than last. Michael Gallup has somewhat disappointed people with only 10 targets through the first 2 games. Somebody that a lot was expected of. He got a long catch returned, a 50-yard catch returned by penalty, a bogus penalty, some would say, in week 1. And he got a pass interference call that he could not hold on to a touchdown late in the game in week 2. These box scores would look way different. And now he's got Seattle coming on the schedule, who has allowed, let's just say, wide receivers to catch a lot of deep balls against them both last year and through 2 games this year. You watched Julian Edelman go for 2,068 yards last week on an island game against them. So I think this could be kind of a sneaky bust out week for Michael Gallup. Everybody has seen what CeeDee Lamb brings to the table. We saw it last week with him getting the 100-yard bonus, only 5,400. I think he's going to carry a higher percentage. He will also be in that group. And Dalton Schultz, though I don't expect him to be a 10-target guy every single week, he should be on your radar, and the percentage should be low in tournaments based on the massive price hike from 2,500 to 3,700 to 4,500 here in this game. So going back over to the lineup builder and looking at our team player groups, sorted by alphabetical order by team abbreviation. Here are all the guys that are possible. I'm going to use between 1 and 2 guys in the Dak Prescott stacks. I am not going to use Pollard. I am not going to use Ezekiel Elliott. As I said, I'm going to limit it to 1 or 2 guys from this group. Taking a look at our player groups and our bring back stacks, I label all my bring back stacks with BB. Stands for bring back, guys. Smith thinks in the chat, please. So my Dak Prescott bring back group is going to include DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Chris Carson. I'm not going to include Carson in my Russ Wilson lineups. I will include him in those. Moving on to our next stack, we're going to move off of this game, the Fantasy Carnival. We're going to move on to the other guy who has been outstanding this year, and it's Kyler Murray. If you haven't been playing Kyler Murray, I don't know what the hell you've been doing, because he was way underpriced last week. And based on the squishy pricing on DraftKings this week, you can easily get to a high-priced quarterback. Usually I'm looking for cheap quarterbacks, right? 6,300 and down, especially for cash games. Tournaments, that usually opens up a lot of salary for you to be able to spend on some high volume, high ceiling guys, high floor, high ceiling guys. But you can afford basically anything you want on DraftKings this week. It's extremely squishy. On FanDuel, it's ridiculously squishy. I personally like it that way. I know that some people don't. They want sharper pricing. I'm not against it. I feel like the sites are doing that because of the massive influx of players that's coming in. That's a conversation for another time. But let's just focus on Kyler here. His rushing floor and his rushing touchdown ceiling, combined with 35 plus attempts in a very highly convertible pass catch offense that does take deep shots, makes him the ideal quarterback for daily fantasy, averaging 30 points a game. That won't sustain, I don't think. Maybe, you think things are going to regress and maybe they won't. 27 points a game from a quarterback on average is like a lot. Like Patrick Mahomes 2018, like Lamar Jackson 2019. So 30 points is off the charts. I kind of expect this to come down on a per game basis, but like the chances of Kyler Murray having above 20 points most weeks or above 23 points most weeks is more viable than I think a lot of people are maybe factoring in. The pairing with Nook Hopkins has gone great, considering how many catches go or how many targets go towards Hopkins' side of the field and how easily convertible those are because they are extreme low ADOT catches with blockers in front of him, that if he happens to bust one a game, or that sucks safeties in and then it's maybe a fake hold and go where he can catch one over the top. Usually that's been Kirk's role this season. He's the guy that they're taking deep shots at. Hopkins gives you a floor with him. So let me put Kyler into this so you guys can just see it for vision purposes. Hopkins going to be in that group. Larry Fitzgerald going to be in that group. Fitzgerald last year hung a 8-catch, 130-yard performance on this same Detroit secondary that now does not have Darius Slay in it, who I know you guys love over on YouTube. So they've just been really bad, and this Cardinals offense has been really good. Isabella is there for over-the-top catches. Kirk, not on the field for Thursday's practice, at least not for the open portion. So we're going to monitor that. If Kirk is out, I'm going to pivot this to somebody like Isabella by the time the weekend gets here. That's something we can monitor as the time goes on. And then we'll focus on our bring back plays once we get back over to here in the lineup builder. So back on the lineup HQ, Kyler Murray group. I did not talk about him before, but Dan Arnold is running a lot of routes and is extremely cheap on DraftKings, $2,800. He's in that price range where Jordan Reed was last week. He's in the price range where Logan Thomas was week 1, Mo Alley Cox last week, and Detroit not good. So I'm going to include Dan Arnold in my stacks. I'm going to include Hopkins. Kirk is in there for now. We might switch this to Isabella if Kirk does not happen to be able to play on this weekend. And I'm going to include Larry Fitzgerald, the venerable one, in this group. I'm going to use between 1 or 2 of them in that lineup group. And then our bring back group here for Murray, Kenny Golladay back at practice, Marvin Jones Jr. outstanding. I'm not going to focus on any of the running backs for Detroit. A, I feel like they're going to be playing from behind. B, I want to take advantage of this passing offense with Golladay back in it, as it is an offense that takes a lot of deep shots. And TJ Hawkinson, who I don't think is going to carry a high percent, definitely has touchdown upside. 16 to 18 points out of a tight end, which is clearly within his range of possibilities. If he has a game like that as a bring back player with these Arizona stacks, is going to be a problem. And then moving on to a more interesting situation, one that I think is playable but not going to be as popular. I think it'll be somewhat popular, but not like super duper popular. People look for reasons to not play Ben Roethlisberger for whatever reason, and I don't know why. He is healthy again and has thrown 5 touchdowns through 2 weeks, and now gets Houston's defense, which has been torn up on the ground and extremely friendly to opposing passing offenses. 22 points per game so far for Ben Roethlisberger. Does not have the rushing upside that some of the other quarterbacks have, but he does have the opportunity on DraftKings at least to get you that 300-yard bonus on DraftKings, or on FanDuel, more touchdown oriented. So if he was to connect with his pass catchers, that being Juju Smith-Schuster, league leader in targets, Deontay Johnson. If you want to include James Washington or Chase Claypool in that group, Claypool last week had himself a really long touchdown. A lot of people like this kid, really talented rookie, but 3 targets, 2 targets. I focus more on trying to get guys in stacks that are going to see, let's say, 15% or more of the target market share on their teams. Sometimes I'll expand that down to like 13 if I think that it's going to be a really high scoring environment. And Eric Ebron, who should see the majority of their tight end touchdowns, more encouraging, 5 targets in week 2 than week 1. 4,300 will keep players off of him, and Houston just not all that great. So going back to the lineup HQ, taking a look at our Pittsburgh Roethlisberger group, here's all the players in it. I think that Connor is a great play this week. I'm not going to include him in this group. I'm not going to include him. Not going to include Samuels. Ebron, yes. Johnson, yes. Juju, yes. Your choice if you want Claypool or Washington. I'm going to X them out, include 1 or 2 of them. We're going to bring this back with Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, Jordan Akins, David Johnson, and Randall Cobb, and I'm going to only allow 1 of those players. There's some weird stuff going on with this total right now. 80-something, 87% of the bets on the over-under in this game have been on the over, and the total has not moved since it opened, which is kind of strange that with that amount of bets on the over, the total has stayed. Whether the sportsbooks are taking a stand on that number or whether there's a lot of sharp money coming in on the under, has me wanting to limit maybe to 1 of the pass catchers for Roethlisberger. Right now I have it between 1 and 2. and one of the bring back players. This is not a game that I want to totally stack, but I do want exposure to it. And then our final stack, and you've seen him in the lineup builder already, and you know how vomit inducing it has been for me to want to click this player's name. But Mitch Trubisky, if you want a cheap option at quarterback, it's fine. He's playing Atlanta, so we're trying to take advantage of a pace-up situation and a defense that has basically not been able to stop just about anybody. He had a fine game in week 1 at 5,400 at 24 points. I don't think that we need to get more than one of his pass catchers into this stack. And it's got a very attractive bring back stack with all the pass catchers and players on Atlanta. I'm probably not going to be including Gurley in that. But Chicago's got some interesting pass catchers on this team. The first one that I want, and I want to make sure that my lineups are going to have, my Trubisky lineups are going to have mostly Allen Robinson. This is going to come to me either having to build those lineups separately or boost Allen Robinson's projection in whatever lineup builder you're using to make sure that I get most of my Trubisky lineups having Robinson. And I may just make it that he's the only one I want, which is something I've done before where I don't want to try to have exposure to equal amount of wide receivers. He's getting the drastic majority of the targets from Trubisky and has not had a blow up game yet, mostly because he has caught 100% of the balls that have been on target that have been thrown his way, but he's only caught 8 of 18 balls. So let's just say there's been some Trubisky induced inefficiency when it comes to Allen Robinson. I am going to include Robinson in those stacks. If you want to get a little bit frisky, you can include Tariq Cohen in that stack. Miller has been up and down, right? Again, Trubisky-induced inefficiency, but against Atlanta, who's going to increase opponents' pass catchers' efficiency and quarterbacks' efficiencies, fine. Not going to include Cordero. I know that somewhere Ian Harditz is crying. 2 targets a game for Wims. Probably not going to include him. I've seen people talk about Mooney because of the amount of snaps he's running. He's getting a few targets a game. He's not going to hurt you, right? When I say not hurt you, in week 1, we saw a player come in second in the Millionaire Maker with Robert Tonyan involved in a Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers stack, and he posted 0.0 points. He got us a Blue Tarski in week 1, did Tonyan. Guy still came in second in the Millionaire Maker and was possibly going to be the winner if that Alvin Kamara touchdown had counted instead of getting overturned. So if he only gets you 4, 5, 6 points, but allows you to do some other things within that lineup, the 3K minimum players are especially at wide receiver on DraftKings at full PPR, fine, right? If you want to include him, fine. I'm not going to argue with you, and I'm not going to ridicule any Trubisky stack that I see that has a minimum salary wide receiver that's running a bunch of routes. So going back to our team group here, I didn't exclude anybody yet. I'll do it for you right here. I'm going to use exactly one player in my Trubisky stacks. I don't want too much exposure. I am personally, for the sake of this video, I'm just going to do this here and here. That's it. Use exactly one of these 2 dudes in that lineup. Moving over to the player group for Mitch Trubisky. Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, Russell Gage, fine. I know that you guys like Russell Gage, but I'm not going to be rostering him a ton. I'll probably weight him down. He has gotten a respectable amount of targets so far. If you want to include him in this stack, fine. I'm going to use exactly one player in this bring back group with Hayden Hurst as well. And as I said, I may weight down Gage here at 5,100, but this would be my bring back stack. I'm going to let it pick one, and I'm going to monitor this group. And it's going to allow me some differentiation. I think that that's the way that you really want to go with your stacks. You want to be getting your differentiation for tournaments in them. Thank you to Rotogrinders. Definitely go over to my Instagram page, follow it, and get yourself involved in the t-shirt giveaway. Click the link down below in the description. Rotogrinders.com/smizzlife. Just click it. Even if you don't intend to buy, do me a favor, click the link. Just clicking that link helps me. That's all you got to do. Appreciate you guys. Look out for that next video. It's going to be right here.
He's a legend.